Hello students, let's continue our chapter 20. Yesterday we studied about communalism. Today we are going to study about casteism. Just like the question that we saw yesterday, communalism, which could be asked for 4 marks, so like casteism also can be asked for 4 marks. So please be with me and pay attention. Casteism. Castes have been existing in the social system of India since its birth. Thus, we may say that India's social structure is based on casteism. So students, caste system is not at all new to us. We know that it has been existing in India since its birth. Okay, and so when we talk about India's social structure based on casteism, what we get to see is that earlier concept of casteism was different from what it is today. To fulfill the basic needs of the society, the task-based communities were at the base of work division. So students, which we saw that the caste system which existed since its birth of India, and the concept of casteism was earlier different than what it is today. Today also we talk about caste system, but it is not as it was earlier. How is it today? We'll study it now. According to early hypothesis, Varna system, that is Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra was based on 4 occupations. So students, what is that? We are talking according to early caste system, or that is the Varna system. Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. These were the 4 base caste systems were there, and according to their occupation too. Occupation also was based on that. We know that only that was the time only Brahmin could study, Brahmin could only get the knowledge, whereas the Shudra had a different duty. The concept was totally different, and in order to remove that concept from our mind, people have worked very hard. There have been some of the freedom fighters also. So there have been social reformers who have tried to change the mindset of the people. And so dwelling arrangement and occupation were based on caste, as base of the occupation was source of income, and some castes were getting low income, so they remain poor economically. So students, the occupation, the jobs were based on their Varna system, like Brahman, Kshatriya, Vaishya and Shudra. So their occupations also were accordingly. The higher paid jobs were given to the Brahmins, whereas Shudra job was very minimum payment you got, and so economically they remain always poor. With that low income, how could you expect them to come up? Okay, so as base of occupation was source of income, and some castes were getting low income, and some castes, mostly the castes like Shudras or Vaishyas, especially the Shudras were getting at that time very low income, so they remained poor economically. Before the period of British rule, some communities were living isolated life in the regions where it is not easy to reach, like inaccessible forests and mountainous region. So students, what happened before the period of British rule? Some communities were living isolated life. So in the regions where it was not easy to reach, like inaccessible forests, mountainous region. So what happened? They were living isolated in a way. They were living by themselves, in a sense. They were very far away from all the people, as they were in the forest or mountainous region, and these were the inaccessible forests where People would not reach, they will not have enough access to the things and so on. Social and cultural life of these communities was different from others. They had their own prominent culture and language. So students, you understood, those who stayed in the forest and the mountainous region, since the people could not reach there, they also did not have easy access to the things and so on. Their social and cultural life was of this community was different from the other people, and so they had their own prominent culture and the language. Because of the living separately from generation to generation, people of these communities could not develop. Since they were living separately, generations to generations, from many, like their grandparents, their great grandparents, all stayed into these mountainous and the forest area regions, and so therefore these people could not develop economically. As a result, they could not develop, and as a result of it, their economic and social condition has remained backward. So students, till today, they continue to live into this forest and the mountainous region, but economic and the social condition still remains backward, as they have been settled over there and they do not have easy access to the many of the things. Now let's see constitutional provisions to protect the interest of the minorities, weak and backward classes. Now what is that constitution provides? What does the constitution say about these people to protect the interest of the minorities? Now we are going to study also who are the minorities, also the weak and the backward classes. Many provisions have been made in the constitution for the protection, welfare and progress of minorities, weaker section and backward classes. So students, we know that nowadays many provisions have been made for these minorities in a different way. Students will study now in this chapter. Soon after this points, we are going to study about the minorities. So who are these minorities? They could be language wise, they could be religion wise, and so minorities, weaker section and the backward classes, for them the constitution is providing some provisions, okay, and these constitutional provisions have been provided to protect their interests, to eradicate social inequality and to work for their welfare and development. So why students these constitutional provisions have been made for them? So that they also get the social same status socially in the society, to eradicate injustice, okay, and so also to protect their interests. So that is how the constitution provides what is required, so that they are also developing, there is also growth. Indian first point is that Indian constitution grants equal social, economic and political justice to all the Indians. Indian constitution we have studied last year in 9th standard. We have seen in that when you also study about the preamble, you get to hear these words into this. So what our Indian constitution makes sure that the people staying in India, they get the equal social, economic and political justice to all the people, okay. According to the Indian constitution, there will be no discrimination on the basis of community, caste, religion, language, sex, etc. It is also mentioned in the Constitution that equal opportunity and equal status is the fundamental right of every citizen. So students, you are not supposed to discriminate on the basis of community, from which community the person is coming, which caste he belongs to, which religion, which language he or she speaks, or what is the sex of the person, whether it is he or she, or the gender. We are not transgender. We are not supposed to discriminate them on the basis of these things, okay. So what happens, it is also mentioned in the constitution that equal opportunity and equal status is the fundamental right of every citizen. we have fundamental rights. 9th standard we have studied about the fundamental rights and the duties, and each person is supposed to be getting his or her rights. Moreover, the states are also given powers so that they may discharge the duties as a welfare state. They can impose certain restrictions on certain fundamental rights in order to protect weaker and backward class of the society. So students, even the states, of course the country, Indian constitution gives us a provision, but also it becomes difficult for the country wise, and so therefore the states have got the power to see that the people are getting that they have protected the which people who are weaker and the backward classes. They are getting their rights, fundamental rights have been given to them, and they are protected and given the proper provisions. The right to religion gives freedom to follow any religion. They are free to follow. Each person staying in our country is free to follow his or her own religion, that whichever religion they like. Once they are 18 above, they choose their own religion. Okay, so that freedom is there. The main objective behind providing constitutional help to minorities, weaker section, and backward classes is to offer them equal opportunities, justice, and status in the country. We already saw this point. For students, what is the main objective is what? That the people who are coming into the minority section or weaker or the backward section, backward classes, they get the equal opportunity, justice, and the status in the country. They get their own dignity, students. And we are supposed to be including all the people. We are not supposed to exclude anyone from a group. Care is taken for these classes in the 5 years plan also. So students, the care has been taken in for these classes. Which classes? We are talking about minorities, backward classes, as well as the weaker section of the Indian society. And this care has been taken in the 5 years plans also. So this is all about casteism. But let's see about minorities. Now, what is this minorities? What we saw already in the casteism, it comes about the minorities, weaker section, backward section. So, who are these minorities? Minority is such a group of people which is not in majority with regard to religion or language within a certain region or regions. So who are these minorities? Minority is such a group of people which is not in majority, okay, with regard to religion or language within a certain region or regions. Okay, make a bracket to this sentence, students. There is no specific definition for minority in Indian Constitution. Generally, a group of people forming less than half of the total population of a region or a country can be called minority. So students, there is not a proper definition. If you ask for the definition of the minority, you will not get the proper definition for the minority in the Indian Constitution. But in short, what it is, a group of people who are less than half regarding to the total population of the region or of that country is called as a minority. So for example, if you go to see religion wise, Christians, Jains, they come into minority. If you go to see the region or the linguistic wise, we'll get to see there have been people linguistically also which group comes into. We'll see that now. Okay, the concept of minority is not restricted to any religion, language, or region. Just as at national level, the local and regional minorities are taken into account at the state level also. So just as at the national level we talk about these minorities, so the local and regional minorities are also taken into account at the state level. Okay, For example, students, just the example, people living in Tamil Nadu, okay, in South, they very few people speak Hindi over there. So in that state, Hindi speaking or linguistic wise, Hindi speaking people are very few. But if you go to see nation wise, we are more. Many people speak Hindi. Hindi is a national language, and many people speak Hindi. But in that particular state, there may be minorities. Okay, but nation-wise, country-wise, we are not. It is just an example that I am giving it to you. That is why the concept of minority at national level differs from that of the state level, which I already explained to students. It is a community. If a community is in a minority in any region or in state's total population, it can be in minority at national level. So if a community is in majority, if a community is in majority in any region or in state's total population, it can be minority at the national level. Okay, students, linguistic wise or religion wise, we will get to see, or we get to see in our country. Contrary to this group, a group which is in minority in a state can be in majority at national level. So in a state, just as I gave the example of the people speaking Hindi in Tamil Nadu and all, they can be in minority over there in that state, but in majority in the Indian country national level. In India, minorities share equal rights with majority. In India, minority shares equal rights with majority. Okay. Moreover, special provisions have been made. In the Constitution to protect and encourage their religion, language, culture, script, etc. Like, now what is that? Like, so people have been given their own rights. Their rights have been protected. Okay. Our Indian Constitution gives this, whether they are in majority or in minority. A national minority commission has been set up for protecting their rights, interests, welfare, and for progress of minorities. This is the first point. What? A national minority commission has been set up, and they are supposed to be seeing. What are they supposed to be seeing, students? They are supposed to be seeing that the minorities' interest, welfare, and the progress has been protected. The next point, student. The next point is the right to religion, especially to minorities, assures them that they can make propaganda to spread and propagate their religion. The law does not permit forceful religious conversion. Any educational institution taking government grant cannot teach religious teachings. All religious communities have a right to acquire and maintain property for religious activities. Sorry, students. Okay, so what is it, students? Any religion has a right. Any minorities assures them, make sure they can make a propaganda to spread or propagate their religion, but no forceful conversion. You cannot make any person to have, suppose a mother and father, they are Muslims or Christians or Hindus. They cannot make their children to follow the same religion. If their children are 18 years and above and they want to follow a particular religion, they are free. Or in their relation, suppose half the people are Christian and half are Hindus, you cannot force others to become the vice versa. Okay, So you are free, you cannot force anyone. Any educational institution taking government grant cannot teach religious teachings. Okay, is understood. We see it in our school also. All religious communities have a right to acquire and maintain property for religious activities. All religious communities, for the religious activities, they collect some fund and they have the right to do so. Okay, the minorities have the right to preserve their script and culture as per cultural and educational right. So the minorities have the right. Those who are in minorities, they have right to what? To preserve their script and their culture as per cultural and educational right. They can preserve. They are supposed to be preserving. They are supposed to hand over. We have been seeing about the culture. Okay, we have been seeing first 7 to 8 chapters in history are all about our heritage. So this also comes into that. Any educational institution receiving government grants cannot refuse an admission on the basis of religion, race, caste, color, or language. Okay, any educational institution. Okay, we are not supposed to discriminate. We are not supposed to see that we are not supposed to refuse the admission on the basis of his religion, race, caste, color, or language. Okay. Also is that receiving government grant, that is the schools which are government aided. Okay, they cannot refuse this admission. All the sections of the society have a right to retain and develop a language and script of their own choice, to establish and run educational institutions for the protection and growth of their culture. All the sections of the society have a right to do what? To retain and develop a language and a script of their own choice. Whatever language you are speaking and you want to preserve it, and to keep writing the script and to preserve that script, you want to hand it over to the next generation, you are free to do so. Okay, the state governments provide facilities to get the primary education in their mother tongue to the children of the minority. So what, student, make a bracket or try to understand this point. The state governments provide facilities to get the primary education in their mother tongue. Okay, whichever mother tongue, okay, to the children of the minority. Suppose you are in Gujarat, so you will make sure people who have come from Maharashtra or Bihar and all, they also get the right to do what? To learn their language, as well as they get the education in their mother tongue, even though they come into minority. Or if not in their mother tongue, but what will happen is that they have the right also to learn the language which is being taught in the school. Okay, so students, today we studied about the casteism and the minority. I am going to stop the class over here. We shall see the next topic tomorrow. Okay.